When I was a kid, I thought Regular Show was one of the funniest cartoons ever made. A blue jay and a raccoon working at a park, avoiding their job, drinking soda, eating wings, playing video games, chasing girls, pissing off their boss, and then somehow every small problem turns into a fight with a demon, a cursed VHS tape, a giant monster, or the literal end of the universe itself. And at the time, that was enough. I didn't need some deep explanation. I didn't need a video essay. I didn't need somebody in a black turtleneck telling me, well, actually, Mordecai represents Arrested Development. I just knew, dude, this show's goated. But watching it now, it hits completely different. Because the older I get, the more I realize Regular Show was never really about a park. It was about having a place, a dumb job, a couch, a routine, a bunch of weird characters coming in and out of your life, feeling that any boring day could somehow turn into a story. That's the part I didn't understand as a kid. I thought the show was about escaping work. But now I think the show is about how work or school or some random shared place you complain about can accidentally become the thing that gives your life structure. Sometimes the thing you complain about becomes the thing that holds your life together. And that's what makes Regular Show so good. Because yeah, it's funny, it's absurd, it's stupid in the best way. Muscle Man's disgusting, Benson's always screaming, Skips somehow knows everything, and Pops is pure innocence in human lollipop form. But underneath all of that, the show understands something very real. Life is mostly boring until you have people to be bored with. And that's what Mordecai and Rigby have. They're not rich, they're not successful, they're not impressive, and they're not living some fantasy life. They're just two young, degenerate dudes working a bullshit job at a park. But they have each other. They have the couch. They have the house. They have the snack bar. They have the golf cart. And they have the same boss yelling at them every day. They have the same weird coworkers. They have the same little routines. And as a kid, that looked fun. And as an adult, it almost looks sacred. Because at a certain point, you realize how rare that is. A crew just doesn't naturally appear forever. A place doesn't just stay yours forever. The people you're around every day eventually move, get new jobs, get married, drift away, change, and disappear. And then one day you look back and realize, oh, that thing I kept complaining about, that was my life. That was an era. That was where stories were happening. And I think that's why Regular Show still hits so hard as an adult. It captures that stage of life where you're young enough to still be stupid, but old enough that consequences are still starting to show up. Mordecai and Rigby are not children. That's what makes the show feel different. They weren't in middle school, they weren't superheroes, they weren't living with their parents going on wacky kid adventures. They were basically 20-something-year-old slackers with a job. They had crushes, they had bills, kind of. They had responsibilities they avoided. They had a boss, they had coworkers, they had jealousy, insecurity, awkwardness, regret, friendship, drama, romantic failure, and that horrible feeling of knowing you should probably be doing more with your life, but also wanting to play video games for 1 or more hour. That's not really kid stuff. That's why the show never really fully felt like a kid show to me. It felt like I was watching something I wasn't old enough to fully understand yet. Like the show was letting me hang out with older guys. Not older as in wise, older as in they could drive to go get wings with the boys. Which when you're a kid is basically being a god. Mordecai and Rigby had freedom. They could leave work, they could go to concerts, they could stay up late, they could eat trash, they could make bad decisions, they could chase girls, and they could waste an entire afternoon. But the genius of the show is that freedom always comes with this weird sadness underneath it. Because while they are free, they're also stuck. They had all day to do whatever they wanted, but they weren't really going anywhere. And that's such a specific feeling, being young and free, but also kind of lost. You're not trapped exactly, but you're not moving either. You're just kind of hanging out. And hanging out feels amazing until you start wondering whether hanging out is all you're ever doing. And that's where Mordecai and Rigby become more than just funny characters. Mordecai is the guy who wants his life to mean something, but keeps getting stuck in his own head. He wants love, he wants purpose, he wants to be seen as mature, he wants to be the cool one. But he overthinks everything. He fumbles, he romanticizes, he makes situations way more complicated than they need to be. Rigby, on the other hand, is the obvious loser at first. He's lazy, he's impulsive, he lies, he cheats, he makes things worse. He will choose the dumbest possible option if it means avoiding discomfort for 30 seconds. But as the show goes on, Rigby actually grows up in a pretty real way. He goes back to school, he becomes more honest. His relationship with Eileen is weirdly one of the healthiest things in the whole show. He starts as the joke, but by the end he might be the only one who actually figures things out better than Mordecai. And that's what makes the show age so well. As a kid, you think Mordecai is the cool one and Rigby's the idiot. But as you get older, you realize Mordecai is also kind of a mess, and Rigby might actually be more emotionally brave than he looks. And then you've got Benson. And when you're a kid, Benson is just the annoying, angry boss. He's the guy ruining the fun. He's always yelling, he's always threatening to fire them. He's the adult in the room, which automatically makes him annoying. But when you watch the show older, you're kind of like, honestly, Benson had a point. Imagine managing Mordecai and Rigby. Imagine telling two employees to set up chairs, and then 3 hours later there's a hole in the sky, a demon made of nachos, and your entire park is about to get erased from existence because they wanted to win a free hat. Benson isn't just angry, Benson's exhausted. And that's the other thing the show does so well. Your relationship to every character changes as you get older. When you're young, Mordecai and Rigby are the heroes and Benson's the enemy. And when you're older, Mordecai and Rigby are still funny, but they're also the coworkers who make everybody else's job harder. Benson's still intense, but now you understand why he's intense. Skips is no longer just the wise, strong guy. He's the older dude who's been through enough life to know when something is actually serious. Pops isn't just silly, he's innocent. He's the part of the world that somehow hasn't been ruined yet. And Muscle Man's still gross, but he's also weirdly overconfident, weirdly loyal, and somehow has a fuller personal life than almost anyone. And High Five Ghost is just there, which honestly might be the most realistic coworker archetype of all. The show is absurd, but the social world is real. Every workplace has these people. The overthinking guy, the chaos friend, the stressed boss, the weird older guy who knows how to fix everything, the innocent guy, the guy who somehow always has a girlfriend, and then the guy who barely talks but is always around. And that's why the park feels real. It's not just because the setting is realistic, because obviously it's not. It's because the emotional structure is realistic. The park becomes a container for friendship. And that's the piece that really gets to me now. Because when you're young, you think friendship's just gonna happen. You think life naturally comes with a crew. You think there will always be a place where everyone meets up. A house, a dorm, a couch, a bar, a park, a living room, a shitty apartment, a pool hall, a front porch, somewhere. And for a while it does. College does feel like that. You wake up and even if nothing's planned, something might happen. Walk into the living room and maybe somebody's on the couch, someone's making food, somebody's hungover, someone brought over a random person nobody knows, someone's arguing about something stupid, someone wants to go out, someone wants to order food, someone has an idea that sounds terrible but somehow becomes the night. Like the day has texture. Even the boring parts have texture. And that's what regular show was able to capture. The shared couch, the dumb routines, the boys around, the weird characters coming in and out. It captured that feeling that a boring day could turn into a story just because the right people were there. Then adulthood gets weird because life becomes more stable on paper, but less alive in practice. You get your job, the apartment, the bills, the schedule, the responsibilities. Everything looks more structured, but emotionally it can feel more chaotic. Meanwhile, regular show's the opposite. Regular show is chaos disguised as stability. Real adulthood is stability disguised as chaos. In regular show, crazy things happen every day, but the foundation is stable. Tomorrow, Mordecai and Rigby will be at the park. Benson will still yell. Skips will still know what to do. Muscle Man will say something horrible. Pops will be Pops. The couch will be there. And that's comforting. The world can end in an episode, but the routine survives. In real adulthood, the routine survives, but the world inside you feels like it's ending every other Tuesday. And that's why the show feels good to return to. It gives you a version of life where the chaos is visible and the stability is emotional. And honestly, that might be the fantasy. not fighting monsters or going to space or getting chased by cursed hot dogs or whatever. The fantasy is having a consistent place and consistent people, a world that feels truly yours. Because once you've had that in real life, even for a little bit, you understand how powerful it can be. Maybe it was in college, maybe it was a certain job you had, maybe it was a friend group, maybe it was the bar you went to every Thursday, maybe it was some random era where looking back, you didn't even realize the memories were being made because you were too busy complaining about everything. And that's the sneaky tragedy. You rarely know you're in the good days while they're happening. Because when they're happening, they just feel normal. Mordecai and Rigby don't wake up every day like, wow, this park is the emotional center of our youth. They wake up like, how can we avoid work today? And that's exactly how life works. You don't sit around in college thinking, this shared couch will one day symbolize a lost era of spontaneous human connection. You're sitting there eating garbage, watching TV, laughing about something stupid, wondering what everyone's up to tonight. Then years later, you're like, damn, that was kind of everything. And that's why the park becomes emotional by the end of the show. At first, it's just where they work. By the end, it feels like home. Not because it's perfect, but because it held the era, it held the friendship, and it held the mistakes, and it held the growth. It held the stupid days and the important days, and the days where it seemed like nothing mattered until later. And that's probably why saying goodbye to the park feels like saying goodbye to more than a cartoon setting. It feels like saying goodbye to a version of life where everyone was still around. That's a very specific pain, because growing up isn't always some dramatic event. Sometimes growing up is just realizing that the couch is gone, the house is gone, the job changed, the bar isn't the same, the friend moved, the group chat died, the thing that gave your life structure slowly dissolved and nobody made an announcement. It just kind of happened. And that's why regular shows still matters, because it took something extremely ordinary, two friends working a dead-end job, and made it feel mythic. Every little task became an adventure, every dumb decision became a story, every boring workday had the potential to become legendary. And that's such a beautiful way to look at life, because that's the real reason I loved it as a kid. Not because I understood any of that, but because I felt it. I felt that there was something cool about the way these characters lived. Something loose, something funny, something alive. They had time, they had each other, and they had a place. And even when everything went wrong, they were still going through it together. That's the part that hits for me now. Because I don't think most people want some perfect life. I think a lot of us just want a life with texture, a life with stories, a life where the boring parts don't feel empty because there are people around to make them funny. A life where the job might suck, but at least your friends are there. A life where Thursday night can accidentally become lore. And a life where you can look back and say, yeah, that era was kind of a mess, but at least it was ours. That's what Regular Show gave us. It made wasting time feel meaningful. And maybe that sounds irresponsible, but I don't think it is. Because not all wasted time is wasted. Sometimes wasted time is where friendship happens. Sometimes it's where you become yourself. Sometimes the night you should have gone home early becomes a story you remember 5 years later. Sometimes the place you couldn't wait to leave becomes the place you miss. That's the emotional trick of the show. It starts as a cartoon about slackers, then somehow it becomes a show about memory, about youth, and friendship, about how every era ends, about how growing up doesn't mean one day you suddenly become a different person. It means the world around you slowly stops making it easy to be who you used to be. And that's why Regular Show is still so good. Because it doesn't just make me nostalgic for watching Cartoon Network as a kid, it makes me nostalgic for a feeling I didn't even have yet. The feeling of being young, stuck, free, bored, surrounded, and alive. The feeling that life was annoying, but at least the boys were around. The feeling that the day could still turn into something. The feeling that there was a place to go, a couch to sit on, a crew to waste time with, and some stupid story waiting to happen. So yeah, when I was a kid, I thought Regular Show was funny. But now I think it's one of the most accurate shows ever made about being young and not realizing the life you're complaining about might one day be the life that you miss. And if that's not regular, I don't know what else is.